The medical research grant system in the United States, run through the National Institutes of Health, is intended to fund work that spurs innovation and fosters research careers. In many ways, it may be failing. That's the topic of this week's Healthcare Triage. In recent years, it's been getting harder for researchers to obtain grant support. A study published in 2015 in JAMA showed that from 2004 to 2012, research funding in the United States increased only 0.8% year to year. It hasn't kept up with the rate of inflation. Officials say the NIH has lost about 23% of its purchasing power in a recent 12-year span. Because the money available for research doesn't go as far as it used to, it now takes longer for scientists to get funding. The average researcher with an MD is 45 years old, and for a PhD it's 42 years old before she or he obtains that first R01 or big grant. R01 level funding is not just about advancing science, it turns out. If researchers want to get promotions and tenure, they need to secure these grants. Fewer R01 grants means that more promising researchers are washing out than ever before. Only about 20% of postdoctoral candidates who aim to earn a tenured position in a university achieve that goal. The new reality can be justified only if those who are weeded out really aren't as good as those who remain. Are we sure that those who make it are better than those who don't? A recent study suggests the grant-making system may be unreliable in distinguishing between grants that are funded versus those that get nothing. Its very purpose. When a health researcher, like me, believes he has a good idea for a research study, he most often submits a proposal to the NIH. It's not easy to do this. Grants are hard to rate, take a lot of time, and require quite a bit of experience to obtain. After they're submitted, applications are sorted by topic areas and then sent to a group of experts called a study section. If any experts have a conflict of interest, they recuse themselves. Applications are usually first reviewed by 3 members of the study section and then scored on a number of domains from 1, best, to 9, worst. The scores are averaged. Although the bottom half of applications will receive written comments and scores from those reviewers, the applications are not discussed in the study section meetings. The top half are presented in the meetings by the reviewers, and then the entire study section votes using the same 9-point scale. The grants are then ranked by scores, and the best are funded based on how much money is available. Grants have to have a percentile better than the pay line, which is today usually between 10 and 15%. Given that there are far more applications than can be funded, and that only the best ones are even discussed, we hope that the study sections can agree on the grades they receive, especially at the top end of the spectrum. In this study of the system, researchers obtained 25 funded proposals from the National Cancer Institute. 16 of them were considered excellent as they were funded the first time they were submitted. The other 9 were funded on resubmission, grant applications can be submitted twice, and so can still be considered very good. They then set up mock study sections. They recruited researchers to serve on them just as they do on actual study sections. They assigned those researchers to grant applications, which were reviewed as they would be for the NIH. They brought those researchers together in groups of 8 to 10 and had them discuss and then score the proposals as they would were this for actual funding. The interclass correlation, a statistic that refers to how much the groups agree, was 0 for the scores assigned. This means that there was no agreement at all on the quality of any application. Because they were concerned about the reliability of this result, the researchers also computed a Krippendorff's alpha, another statistic of agreement. A score above 0.7, the range is 0 to 1, is considered acceptable. None were. The values were all very close to 0. A final statistic measured overall similarity scores and found that scores for the same application were no more similar than scores for different applications. There wasn't even any difference between the scores for those funded immediately and those requiring resubmission. It would be easy to mistake this study as a death knell for the peer review process, but it's not. A careful reader must note that all the grants in this study were exceptional. They succeeded after all. Since the National Cancer Institute funds only about 10% of grants, we're looking only at proposals in the best decile, and it's likely that there might be less variability in scores among those than among grants occupying the full spectrum of quality. This should still concern us greatly. This system was designed back when more than half of submitted grants were funded. That's very different than what we see today. The current system favors low-risk research. If you're going to fund only a small percentage of proposals, you tend to favor the ones most likely to show positive results. You don't want to have to defend null findings as a waste of money. The current system favors experienced researchers over new ones. They have thicker curriculum vitae, more preliminary data, and name recognition. Moreover, they know how to work the system. At this point in my career, I know how to write multiple grants efficiently. I'm much better at this than I used to be. The current system can also be biased against women and minorities in ways that could keep them out of funding range. The system is not blinded, and many studies have shown that even after controlling for other factors, the ways in which grants are discussed, scored, and funded can favor men over women and whites over minorities. If researchers are getting into the top 10% more than others based on such factors, especially with less and less money available, many great proposals and many great researchers are being sidelined inappropriately. We may be missing out on a lot of excellent and perhaps novel work that can't break into the top 10% because of structural problems. There are things we could do to fix that. One might be, of course, to increase funding across the board. Another, John Ioannidis, has proposed that we fund researchers, not research. A group of informaticists from Indiana University has suggested that some percentage of funding be put to all scientists for a vote. Other solutions are more radical. One might involve a modified lottery. The current system seems to do reasonably well at discriminating between bad and good grants. Once those good ones are put aside, we might do better by assigning funding through chance. Ferric Fang and Arturo Casadevall, who are researchers and journal editors, have proposed that such a system could reduce bias and increase diversity among researchers, suggesting that seniority and other factors still play too large a part in funding decisions. They make the case that we already have a de facto lottery now, except it's not random and therefore unfair. The current granting system doesn't just fund the researchers of today, it also steers the careers of tomorrow. Should it fail, the repercussions will be felt for decades. Do you like the show? It really helps if you like or subscribe right down there, and another good way to support the show is through a subscription service called patreon.com, which allows you, the viewer, to support the show every month for as little as like $1 a month. If you want to do more, that's fine, but we'll take anything. And if you don't, we'll still be making the show. It'll be free forever. But anything you can do to help make the show bigger and better, we really appreciate it. We'd especially like to thank our research associates, Joe Sevitz, Jonathan Dunn, Crafty Geek, and our Surgeon Admiral Sam. And while we've got you, you can always get great healthcare triage merch at hctmerch.com. My book, The Bad Food Bible, is still available in stores everywhere. Appreciate it if you pick up a copy and keep on watching.